Hey, beauty friends, welcome. I am Meredith from Beadalon, and I'm so glad that there are so many wonderful beauty friends here for class today. Please, as we are getting started and ramping up for our class today, let me know in the comments whether or not you have taken a class with me before. Those of you who have taken a class with me before know that I always ask that at the beginning of class because I like to see who is a seasoned Meredith from Beadalon class member here. And then I like to welcome all of the new people as well. So as Himana had mentioned, just right off the get-go, I want to remind everybody that this class is being recorded. So if there's something that I go over that isn't quite as clear as it could have been, and it isn't something that I'm able to go back to, please keep in mind that in 24 to 48 hours, you will be able to watch To Your Heart's Content over on the Michael's YouTube channel. And it's really easy to find all of the classes if you go into the community classroom playlist. I spend a lot of time there going over classes from other makers as well as rewatching mine, just to make sure I'm doing the best teaching that I can be. So again, it looks like we've got some good seasoned students in here, but then also some new friends as well. So welcome. Again, I'm Meredith from Beadalon, and we are the manufacturers of the jewelry wire. And usually I have a spool right here to show everybody. So when you walk into Michael's, of course it will not be, actually I think you see it the right way. I think I see it reversed on my screen, but we make the beading wire to make jewelry here in our factory in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. So we're USA made, very, very proud of that. And we also have a ton of different types of wires, findings, tools, all kinds of great stuff, many of which we are going to be talking about today. So one of the things that I love doing as a polycrafty crafter is meeting and using products from different friends and different brands within the crafting industry. And I know all of you who go to Michael's stores and hang out at michaels.com know all of the amazing brands that are available for your crafting inspiration in Michael's stores. And I'm all about collaboration. I'm all about using different products to make jewelry. And that is what today's class is all about. You can see from behind me in the studio, there's lots of different stuff going on. And I am going to be highlighting products today from We Are Memory Keepers, from UV Resin, Blue Moon Studios, from John Bead, and then of course from Beadalon. And all of these products are going to come together to make this QR code necklace. And make sure I get the right side there. Okay, this was actually a project that came about from lots of different inspiration. And my friend Allie from We Are Memory Keepers is here in the chat. If you see the gallery view up at the top of your screen, at least for me, she's third. So her smiling face is keeping me in check, but also keeping me on my toes for class today. But the PrintMaker is this fun little guy right here. And if you are my Vanna White impersonation of the PrintMaker. If you're familiar with this guy, hopefully I will do a good job demonstrating it today. But if you're not familiar with that, I'm going to talk about it a little bit in beading craft terms. And if you have any specific questions, Allie is here in the chat to answer those. I'm also going to be using UV resin from my friends at the Blue Moon Studios. Again, hopefully I will be able to do that some justice as well. We're going to be using some seed beads from my friends at John Bead. Those I can talk about until the end of the day. And then the Beadalon products that we are going to be using today are some 22 gauge artistic wire, as well as, where did my WildFire go? Just had it right here on the side and it might have gotten swept up. No, it did not. It's right here. That's the WildFire that we're going to be using today. And then of course, If you've taken my classes before, you've seen me use this little guy. It is the Beadalon Findings Variety Pack, and we're going to use that to turn our creation today into a necklace. So back to inspiration. I got this wonderful PrintMaker machine from Allie and my friends at We Are Memory Keepers. And Yvette, who some of you might remember from the chat, and I were brainstorming, we're thinking, what in the world, how can we incorporate the technology that this amazing little printer can do into a piece of jewelry? And so what we came up with was to create and print a QR code. Now, for those of you who don't know what a QR code is, I do have everything that I need here. This is the QR code, right? You see those in all different kinds of places. You see them on packaging, you see them on posters, you see them in the bus stop. And what it does is it brings you to a website, right? And I didn't know this, but you can create your own QR code and it can direct you to anything on the internet. So my QR code goes to the Beadalon website because that makes sense, right? But I could also do one that directed itself to my own personal website for selling jewelry. It could direct to a photo album that has special photos for a grandparent. It could direct to a playlist for a special somebody there. And in the comments, it's actually, Stacy mentioned that she's seen it go to bring up a special song on a playlist. And Yvette is here in the comments, actually. I don't know if you heard, I was attributing this wonderful idea to you and thanking you for all of the collaboration, which is the theme of the class today. Okay, let's see, what else do I want to mention? So what we did then is we thought, okay, so we are printing out this QR code and how can we encapsulate that? How can we turn that into a piece of jewelry? And we're going to take that from start to finish, from the printer to the jewelry in our class today. So without further ado, I think that that is a good enough introduction. We have some wonderful friends here today, and we are ready to take that overhead camera and get everything into position and get started. So once again, with a good shot in the overhead camera, this is where we're going today. This is what we're making. We're going to take a QR code. We're going to print it out. We're going to turn it into a pendant. And I have this one already pre-strung because we might have to, in the interest of time, do a little bit of cooking show style for our show today. So a good question just came through in the chat. Are we going to go over how to make a QR code? So I didn't practice this beforehand, but I am going to see if I can share my screen and show everybody through how to do this. Okay, so bear with me for one moment and let me share my screen. Hopefully I can do this. And here we go. And I'm going to share, and here I am sharing the screen. Okay, so this is just one of many different QR code generators that you can find online. And in the instructions that were sent out with today's class, there's a link to this site as well. I'm not going to go through the particulars of how to do this, but basically you follow the instructions, you create your QR code, it downloads onto your computer, and then you are able to add that into your We Are Memory Keepers PrintMaker app. Now, again, and I do want to stress, and actually, Jimena, can you take the forward camera for just 1 second? And before we get into it, I just want to remind everybody that I work for Beadalon. I do not work for We Are Memory Keepers. I do not work for Blue Moon Studios, and I do not work for John Bead. So I am going to do my very best to do right by all of these brands. But Allie and the team from We Are Memory Keepers has taught some amazing classes on the PrintMaker. And has gone over all of these different things. And I highly recommend, if this is something that you are interested in, going to the Michael's YouTube channel and rewatching those classes and also signing up for future classes. Likewise with the UV resin, there is so much to learn and explore and delve into with that product line that I definitely recommend going back and rewatching all different classes. So this is just kind of like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I'm going to go back and learn more. So I'm over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my QR code to my printer. And once again, Allie and the team at We Are Memory Keepers has taught a ton of classes on this. So I'm not going to show my screen and kind of go through all of that. Not my area of expertise. And sometimes, especially with a QR code, it can get a little funky. So I'm just going to close this really quickly. I'm just working on my iPad off screen right here. I'm going to go back into my app and call that back up again. And let's see if we can't get this to work nicely for me this time. The best part about the PrintMaker is it sounds like R2-D2. It's so cute. Okay, so I send it to my printer, and now what I need to do is press that button. And when I, oh, thank you, Himana, just put a link for a class. I tend to take my hands away from the PrintMaker as much as I can, because I tend to want to jump the gun, and you have to wait until it turns green in order to do the print. And then you do the print and it works. All right, I'm going to show that again just because it's so much fun. All right, so we press the button, we wait for it to turn green, and we make a QR code. I get a huge kick out of that. I'm a crafty nerd. What are you going to do? I highly recommend also these supplies, and Allie, I'm sure, can put into the comments exactly what they're called, because I have enough trouble keeping the Beadalon names of products straight, and I don't want to botch the names of anybody else's products. So next thing I'm going to do, and this is washi tape. It's a big old roll of washi tape that I printed these QR codes off. And I'm just going to use some scissors. These are the Beadalon design scissors. And I am going to cut these out. And again, the great thing that I think about the this PrintMaker is you can do this with your logo. You can do this with your Venmo code or your PayPal code and put it in your booth if you're doing craft fairs. You can do this with a special piece of artwork. There's so many different ideas. And again, I just started scratching the surface on all of the fun ways that that I am going to start using the PrintMaker, not only to create packaging, to create all kinds of fun cards and different ways of incorporating things into paper crafts, but to make jewelry as well. So I have my little QR codes cut off here, and I'm just going to move them to the side and move this mat out and move my resin supplies in. And again, this is a little bit of a non-traditional class for me to be teaching, but I was so excited about the idea of using something printed and something so personalized in a piece of jewelry that I was really glad to be able to bring this class to fruition. So you could see I've been doing a little practicing, getting my my resin skills warmed up. So I have one already done here. I'm going to set that aside and talk a little bit about the UV resin. So I have set up in my computer, I have a USB connector. So I just unplugged my PrintMaker and plugged in my UV resin. Good question that came in. Why did I choose washi tape over a heavier cardstock? That is a good question. Why did I choose washi tape over a heavier cardstock? I think initially I had the washi tape and I was playing around with it, and I like how it's the right material for pulling the ink from the PrintMaker in. Sometimes with different kinds of cardstock, the ink can seep in a little bit more than you want. I didn't practice on a lot of different materials, so I would love to know if somebody does do this project with a piece of cardstock. I don't see why it wouldn't work. My original concept though is that I wanted to actually tape it down inside the resin. But what I found, and Allie, you might or might not know this, but when I left the sticky stuff on the back, the colors actually came out a little bit clearer. I don't know why, not having that extra layer of backing made such a difference. But when I took it out, see, this is one that I left it on, and I think that this is the one that I took it out, and it's tough to see on the small camera, but it does make a difference in its vibrancy. So I wanted it to be a little bit more vibrant, so I'm actually leaving the stuff on the back. But very, very good question. Okay, I'm a little nervous, but I think I can do it. So for this project, what I wanted to do was to create a pendant that I was then able to wrap with wire. Okay. But in my practicing, I want to show you guys as well something else that I made. I used a slightly different mold. I printed out a butterfly and I used a Beadalon pinch bail on the top. So tons of different ways of executing this project. I'm going to show you the steps to making it all happen, or at least making one part of it happen. But I was really, really pleased with how this guy turned out as well. But for the mold, I'm just going to use this square right here. I thought it would be fun to do a little wire wrapping around it. So, deep breath, everybody. Resin, right? I'm using the UV Resin Craft hard type resin. And once you practice with this stuff, it's a lot easier than the first time. We'll just say, we'll just put that out there. So I'm filling this about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way. And I want to work to get this bubble out. And I'm sure when Stephanie teaches this class, and if you go back and watch her resin classes on the Michaels Community Classroom YouTube channel, she has a ton of really good tips and tricks. My best tip is keep a wet paper towel in a little container of some sort, because that's what wipes the resin off of your tools so that you can use them over and over again. So what I like to do, actually, before I go there, I use a small little inclusions, right? Little fun stuff. And all of these things, all of my collaboration partners today are all brands and all products that you can find in Michaels. And that's what kind of made it so much fun for me to work with this, is because I like walking all the different aisles in Michaels. I tend to do that every time that I go to the store. And I know that you guys have seen this, because when you sign up for the Michaels classes, it asks you how many times per week you go into a Michaels store. What are some of your answers to that question? My answer is always at least more than once a week. I may or may not be on a first name basis with some of our staff members. We'll just leave it there. But that would actually be a fun question for everybody, or a fun answer in the chat, is how many times per week do you go into your local Michael's store? All right, so now I'm going to come here and I'm going to tap this. You can see the UV light is going to cure the UV resin. And it takes about 60 seconds to run through. And I do tend to run it through more than once. I'm only going to do one time for our class today, just in the interest of time. But I do tend to, do I over cure? I don't think you can over cure. But I definitely tend to cure as many times as I possibly can, because I don't know, I just do. I feel like you're putting in a good thick amount of resin. And so you want to make sure that that's going to cure. You also want to do it in a nice ventilated place. You can tell that I've been doing a lot of resin today. Or on a day, if I get a little loopy, if I'm not quite as well ventilated as I should be, and my light has gone off. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my QR code here, and I'm not going to add any more inclusions on top of it because I want to be able to still scan that QR code and have it go to something. So this one, for example, got a little bit, the inclusions got a little bit on top of everything. So it might not actually scan. And that's one of the things that you do have to double check on. If you are doing this as something that you're going to use for your business, for a loved one, for a gift, you want to make sure that the QR code will do what it's supposed to do, which is scan and bring you to a website. Now, I had mentioned before that one of the reasons why I used the washi tape was so that I could actually stick this down and have it be placed the right way. But what I ended up finding, it's always fun to make a nice craft discovery, is it looks a little bit better if you leave that backing on. So we're just going to leave the backing on. But the cool thing about resin is that it acts like glue. It doesn't act like glue, it is glue. And so what you can do is put a little bit of uncured resin down, spread it around, pick up your QR code and lay it down on that resin so it has a little bit more to adhere to. Okay. And it looks like Allie is posting some very helpful links in the chat, so I appreciate that. But one of the things that I have tried to remind myself when working with the resin is to take it slow. It is always tempting for me, especially as an instant gratification kind of crafter, to rush through some of this stuff a little more than I should. And so my morning of resin has really helped me kind of find my zen in crafting, to really slow down and take a couple of different steps to getting this the way that you want it to be. Also, I'm noticing that I did a much better job of not kind of junking up my my resin the more I practiced. So the first one I did, while we're waiting for that to cure, is a little muddy, right? You can see it's tough to see that QR code. The second one I did is much clearer, and I think this third one that I'm doing right now is going to be even better. So again, slow and steady wins the race on all of this, and slow and steady has won the race for me in learning how to use the PrintMaker as well. So once again, this is the little guy while we're waiting for this to cure. I'm gonna bring this back into frame. This is a little friend who printed out that QR code, and I have been having a blast using it not only in jewelry making, but also in jewelry organizing, which we all could use a little more of. I've been doing a much better job than in moments past of keeping things organized, or at least labeled. So one of the benefits of having the opportunity and the materials to be organized is to actually use them and maybe pretend like I can be a little bit more organized. And again, one of my challenges, and I'm really trying to do a better job with it, is to not overfill my resin and to work these little bubbles out. It's always tempting to kind of glop it in there. And I am not that concerned, or as concerned perhaps as some other people might be, about bubbles in my resin. But if I were, I would be much more inclined to get those bubbles out. And again, each time I do this, I'm just wiping my resin on here. Deidre is asking a really good question. How have I used my PrintMaker to organize my supplies? So Ali can actually chime in on that really well as well. But I have things in all different kinds of storage containers here in the Beadalon home office. And I like using the washi tape to write what that thing is, whether it's beads, whether it's red beads, whether it's seed beads, whether it's John bead seed beads, whether it's whether it's cardstock, whether it is, I'm just looking around for things, whether it's wire, and using the app, of course, taking Ali's and the other friends from We Are Memory Keepers classes can give you all kinds of great organization tips. And Ali is writing in the chat, the PrintMaker is perfect for organization, packaging, business cards, thank you notes, etc. You can print on cardstock, faux leather, fabric, ribbon, and much more. I think it's like, what is it, like 50 different things or 100 different things? There's a list that I saw of like all of the materials you can print on, and more. The important thing though that I have found, and this came into play for me this morning because I wanted to print on some labels, it has to be is it a porous surface or a non-porous surface, Ali? A porous surface? Okay, a porous surface. I know it's the one that the ink can sink into. I just never remember which is which. So if it has a shiny finish on it, if it's acetate, if it's plastic, if it's, just looking around, if it's something that's going to be shiny, that ink won't be able to sink in and adhere and dry, and then you'll get smudging. So you just have to, again, think about the limitations and the strengths of your crafting materials. All right, I'm going to let this run one more time, and then we're going to turn this into a pendant. Ali says, yes, at least 50 different materials. I feel like with the creative crafters out there, we can come up with a lot more materials. But the thing that I'm really excited about is using it. For example, if I do, if I make a pair of earrings, right, and I make an earring card, then I can put my logo and my website and perhaps a nice message, a cute little owl. I don't know why that came to my mind, but all of a sudden I want to use an owl. You could do anything to personalize it, to thank your customer. It's just, so the possibilities are literally limitless. Rosa is asking a really good question. She's saying, why don't you put the resin in all at once? It doesn't have to be 3 steps, but if you look at how thick this is, you see how thick that is? The more opportunities you give that resin to cure, the more it will cure. So resin is a polymer. It's a material that is using the UV rays or the UV light from this guy to harden. So it comes out liquid and we are turning it hard. And doing that in a slower step-by-step process allows for it to harden up a lot better. I think that's the best way that I can answer that question. It just works better if you do it in more than one step. Okay, so now I have my cute little guy here. And actually what I like to do, I left my buffing block over this way, but I do like to take a buffing block and just knock these edges off a little bit. I still haven't quite gotten the knack for getting those super clean pores. So I am nothing if not one that can correct mistakes and make things a little bit more perfect. So I'm just taking that. You can use a like a nail file even. It just happens to be more of a buffing grit rather than a filing grit to knock off those edges. And you'll also notice because there was a reaction, this is actually warm. So I will often generally wait for it just to cool down a little bit. It's not hot, it's not going to burn my fingers, but I feel like when it's still warm, the curing is still happening. Whether or not that's actually the case is up for debate or up for discussion or up for somebody who knows a little bit more about resin than me to answer. So really, really fun and pretty, right? So I could, if I had a drill, I could drill a little hole through here, or I could have used a mold that actually has the little peg in it, but I wanted mine to be square. I didn't want it to be round. I actually made one out of wire earlier that was oval and it just didn't look right to my eye. This one is actually made entirely out of wire. Just another variation, another different way of doing something using the same technique. But I'm just going to use a little piece of 22 gauge wire to make a wrap. Again, combining all different types of jewelry making techniques into one design. All right, so I'm going to come and let's see, I cut about 6 inches or so. Yep, about 6 inches of wire. I think that'll be enough. And with my most precise tools, my fingers, I'm going to bend the wire around my pendant. The other thing I really like about this project is start to finish does not take very long. I'm not necessarily a real proponent of instant gratification jewelry, but I know that a lot of people are. I like the journey more than the destination. Where are my flat nose pliers? Here they are. Oops, sorry guys. I like the journey, like I was saying, more than the destination, but I know a lot of people like to be able to create and craft with a quicker payoff. So this is a nice project that you can either take a good long time to create or less than an hour. Okay, so all I'm doing now is I'm taking that 22 gauge wire. I'm using my fingers to grab it around my pendant. And then I bent both of the wires, the tails of the wires, up at 90 degrees, right on the top of the pendant. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that shorter edge and I'm going to wrap it around the bottom. And this, generally, you guys know, I like to use my tools when I'm doing wire wrapping. A lot of people can do this with their fingers. I guess I do kind of a combination of both with my fingers and with my tool. I like to do both to get a nice tight wrap here. I'm going to take my cutters and just cut that as flush as I can. And then I always tuck my tails down. And I'm going to come and do, with my round nose pliers, a wrap loop here on top. So to do a wrap loop, for those of you who might need a refresher, or this is 100% new, if you were excited because you have a PrintMaker and you're not necessarily a jewelry maker, I'm glad to have you here and glad to show you how to do a wrapped loop. So these are round nose pliers, and I'm just going to put those right at the top of where that wrap, that bottom wrap is. I'm going to take my thumb and just bend that over. Oh, this is always the hardest angle to show, at about a 45-degree angle. Okay. And different people do this in different ways. So if you do your wrap loop a little bit differently than I do, don't fret. As long as you get a nice loop, that is okay by me. But you might want to try it my way if you're not getting nice loops. So now with my pointer finger, I'm going to bring that. It's always really hard to show in the camera here, but I'm going to bring the top over the top part of my pliers. And then I'm over the top part of my pliers, and I'm going to replace that loop, or that 1/2 or 3/4 loop, I should say, into the bottom part of my pliers. And then I'm going to switch hands so that I'm holding this in my left hand or my non-dominant hand. And then this is where I always like to use my pliers to pull this apart around. And then I like to use the push and pull method to finish off my loop. So I'm going to push that around. Let's get that a little bit better centered. And I'm going to pull it back toward myself. I'm going to push it around. And I'm going to pull it back toward myself. And I want to just double check and make sure that my loop meets up with the bottom, or the wrap, I should say, not the loop. The wrap meets up with the bottom. And I'm going to tuck my tail in, just make sure everybody is seeing. So I have a really nice loop. Now, one last step before my pendant is complete, because even though this is wrapped around, it's still a little slippy, right? Because this is a square and there's nothing really grabbing the wire, right? But as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the cool thing about resin is that it's really an adhesive. It's basically, it's not really a glue, but it's something that helps things stick together. So what you can do, what I recommend that you do, is come here and very carefully run a little line of resin down. And I always try to be in the habit of putting my lid back on my resin. I'm not great at it, but I try to have good habits. And then I'm just going to run this along the side here. The other cool thing about the resin is that it's fairly forgiving. So if I do any mess ups here, I can come back in with my my sandpaper, my emery, my buffer. What am I trying to say? And knock those edges off. All right, so I'm going to run this through once, and I'm not going to do all of the sides at one time. Again, I probably could, but I just find that slow and steady makes for a much better project. Really, for everything these days, I'm very much trying to be mindful, to take my time, to be a little bit more careful. It doesn't always work that way, but that's what I'm striving for. All right, let's see. And that's one of the challenges also to teaching a class with the resin. You saw in the beginning how quickly I was able to get those QR codes printed out, but this part takes a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cure this one side But keep in mind that when you do the project, definitely do those same steps to cure this side and then to cure this side. Queen is asking a very good question, which is it safe, the UV on the hand? I am going to answer your question this way. I equate this to the same light that you use when you do like the gel manicure or an acrylic manicure. So for a small amount of time, it's probably not going to kill you, but do I want to keep it on and on my hands for an extended amount of time? Definitely not. Okay. So let's keep in mind that I have done all three, and actually the top side as well, sealing that in with the resin. And when I did this before, I actually did it like that and then put it in. So I didn't even have my hands in there. So that's what I would recommend. Doing also. But for the sake of teaching, sometimes you got to take one for the team. Okay, so now we're going to turn over, right? We're ready to turn the workshop over. I told you guys we were definitely using a lot of different materials in the craft room today. We're going to move on to the Spin-N-Bead. I'm going to change the angle of my camera just a little bit. And for those of you who do not know what this amazing tool is, it is the Beadalon Spinning Bead. It is available on the Michaels website. So unfortunately, this is not available in Michaels stores currently at this particular time, but it is available on michaels.com. And if you don't have one of these guys, I highly recommend getting it. It comes with a big eye curved beading needle. And what makes it a big eye needle and what makes it so great is the whole body of the needle opens up. So it is very, very easy to get your stringing material through it. And I love that my WildFire just ran out. But very, very easy to get your stringing material through it. Okay. And I think we'll be okay with that. I'm actually just going to put a little bead stopper here on the end, or am I? Where did my bead stoppers go? Keep everything at an arm's length here in the home office. A little bead stopper for those of you who don't know what bead stoppers are. They're these little springs that you put on the end of your WildFire or your end of your beading wire to keep your beads from falling off. And the way that the bead spinner works is something called centrifugal force. It's all about science, friends. So I'm going to spin my bead spinner going counterclockwise. And I'm going to take the hook and I'm going to come in here and I need to find the sweet spot. Sometimes it takes a moment to find the sweet spot. And whenever I demonstrate the bead spinner, I always say that one person's sweet spot is not necessarily everybody's sweet spot. So if the bead spinner does not work for you the first time, stick with it. Don't give up on it right away, because eventually you'll find that sweet spot. These are size 8 seed beads that I'm using, A for speed and B for seeability. But I find that the size 11 seed beads really are the best ones for using in the Spin-N-Bead. They climb up the best. They want to get onto that needle. It makes them happy. Size 8s, you can do it. You can actually do it with like 4mm gemstones. I don't have the greatest of luck with 4mm gemstones with a Spin-N-Bead, but once you find that sweet spot, they will climb up. There we go. And a lot faster than doing each one separately, right? So the idea is keep on going with that. You want 8 inches on one side. Add your pendant, and then 8 inches on the next side. Make sure that they're both even. And I like to employ the eyeballing approach of evenness. But if you are more particular, you can certainly count your seed beads. But I will say that since these are Czech seed beads, they are not necessarily going to all be 100% equal. So I am more of a length measurer than a bead counter. Okay. And so now our last step to turning our QR code that we printed out from the PrintMaker from We Are Memory Keepers is to turn this into an actual piece of jewelry. So I have my QR code. I strung it up with my size 8 seed beads from John Bead, and you can use any beads here, gemstones, anything that matches. I was kind of feeling in a blue theme. I guess it was because I was using the Beadalon logo with the Beadalon blue. And I want to come and I'm going to pull out a lobster claw clasp and a tag. Where are my tags? Here are my tags. Sometimes if my fingers are feeling a little fumbly, I like to do this part with my tools. Just going to pull off one of the tags. Am I going to pull off one of the tags? I am. Okay. And a couple of tips about adding clasps that you may or may not know. One of the things that I like to do, and it doesn't matter as much in this kind of a bracelet or this kind of a necklace or this kind of a design, but I like to, especially when I'm using lobster claw clasps, I like to keep my tag and my lobster claw clasped when I am finishing my piece of jewelry. It's a good habit to get into, especially if you are making bracelets, because of the wiggle room that you'll need to build into your bracelet. But that is another class for another day. But just a little tip and a little trick in there. The other tip for today is I am using a tag. It's nice and close up there. I'm using a tag rather than a jump ring, because as well as I can close jump rings, when I am attaching something as fine as WildFire, this is 0.00 thick thread-like WildFire, there is always a chance that that WildFire can slip through the hole of my jump ring. So why take the chance, right? Why not just use a tag that doesn't have any ring there? And if you want to, you can attach it to the clasp, or I'm sorry, attach it to the tag and then use a jump ring if for whatever reason you want to use a jump ring. And then here, all I do is I do a surgeon's knot. So I go making a loop here. I'm going right over left. I'm going to pull that nice and tight. Not so tight that I'm going to create a situation where my thread is going to cut or be cut by that tag, but tight enough that it's tight to it. And then I'm going to go right, wait, hold on, I went left over right. So now I need to go, okay, sorry, let me start that over again. I went right over left. So now I need to go left over right once and twice. And get that knot up nice and tight. Make sure everybody is still able to see. And one of the things about the WildFire is it is a very, very strong material. If you want to put a little knot, I'm sorry, I put a little glue on this knot, you can feel free to do that. I'm generally, as you well know, for those of you who have taken my classes before, I am not a big gluer of knots, and I'm looking over to see my cord cutter is not in the place that it should be. That's interesting. What I like to do, if my WildFire cord cutter is in the place that it should be, where is that? That's really random. is to come in here and just burn that little knot or burn that little tail thread off, and it trims it, it seals it, it keeps it nice and clean and flush. But in lieu of my WildFire cord cutter, that's so weird. I feel like I'm probably looking right at it. Super weird. Well, that's what happens when you're making a gazillion different things at once. All right, so now let's go ahead and do that second side. And you can make this necklace as long as you want. I made a 16-inch necklace, 8 inches on each side. You can make yours 20 inches if you want. You can make it a choker if you want. It's totally up to you. But I tend to at least start my necklaces at 16 inches, and then I'll add either an extension clasp or any extra length that I need to. All right, so I'm coming through here. And it does not matter if you start with the tag or with the lobster claw as your first knot. I tend to just in general, whenever I'm attaching a clasp, I tend to go with the smaller side first. I don't know why I do that, but there must be a good reason if I do. All right, so one of the things about jewelry, and it's less so important when you're using the WildFire because it's such a smooth and drapey material, and less so important with these size 8 seed beads. But you always want to make sure that when you are making jewelry, that you are building in enough wiggle room so that your tension points aren't having too much stress on them. So we talk more about that in the basics of jewelry making classes that we've done. There's a great class that if you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend checking out on the Michael's YouTube channel. It's the 5 things you should never do while making jewelry. And that talks all about proper finishing techniques and different ways of making sure that your jewelry is going to be as strong and as secure and as well constructed as you can. All right, so this second side always gives me a little trouble. So once again, right over left, and then I'm going to go left over right twice. Get that loop together, trying to keep my fingers from being too fiddly. Through here once and twice. And you do not need this long of a tail on the on your WildFire. It just so happened that was the length that I cut. You could do this if you are able to with not quite, I think I have like 13 extra inches here. But I would recommend doing this with at least 5 or 6 extra inches because having a little bit more here is always is going to make your life as a jewelry maker easier than not having enough. Trust me on that one. All right, so let's give a little tug here, make sure everything is good. Give this a little snip. Wish that my WildFire cord cutter was around here someplace. It's probably on one of my beading trays someplace, but we'll just pretend that I did that with the cord cutter. And again, if you don't have one, scissors work just fine. I would caution against trying to do it with a lighter though, unless you're very, very, very careful. But now you have embedded in resin a QR code that you created and printed out. And again, this could be your logo. This could be a link to a photo album, to a special song, to your website, to a website that you like, a secret website that you want somebody to see. All different kinds of possibilities. And you have turned that into a piece of jewelry that you can wear, that you can gift, that you can display in your jewelry, in your booth of wares. So I'm very impressed with myself that I was able to do that in 55 minutes. And thank you to everybody for hanging out with me for that long. Thanks, Allie, for being in the chat and answering the questions and giving me some really good tips and tricks and things to think about as well. Just a couple of reminders that the Beadalon classes for the Michael's Community Classroom run on Wednesdays, most Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and several Saturdays. Sarah Lovecraft joins us for teaching classes. So definitely make sure to check out the classroom sign-up page. And not only for jewelry making classes, there are so many amazing makers and instructors who share their incredible wealth of knowledge. I know I've learned so much in this crafting journey, but also in the couple of years now that Michael's has generously offered all of these classes. And just a reminder, if you do make this project, please post it on your socials, tag Beadalon, tag Make It with Michael's, tag Michael's Community Classroom, definitely tag We Are Memory Keepers for the PrintMaker portion of the project. And then also please follow and tag me because I love seeing what people make. It brings me just so much joy to my day. And I am at Meredith Joy Designs. So that is it for me. Again, thank you everybody for hanging out with me for this past hour. And until next time, happy beading.